Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Defy Aging in week 30. And I'm Coach Allison to go over mobility week with you. So, yes, we are in another mobility week. So, this week for mobility, we're going to have still with our stations. I know with mobility week, sometimes we're in our own space, we're counting reps, sometimes we're rotating, we never know. This week, we are going to be rotating sort of like our standard circuit style 60 seconds on and only 30 seconds off. The 60 seconds is long, but I don't want you to worry about that because mobility movements are designed to be slow and controlled and really, let's say, purposeful. So it is 60 seconds, but it shouldn't be anything like exhausting, like doing 60 seconds of jumping jacks or anything like that. Anyways, and there is 3 rounds of that. And then we're going to end with a finisher. The finisher is going to also be a little different. We have done this before. It's going to be 5 minutes on a piece of cardio. So we can get, because this is a lower intensity workout as far as heart rate and perceived exertion. So let's get a little bit of that cardio to at least incorporate it in our workout in some manner this week. So 5 minutes of steady state cardio. I want you to work at a perceived exertion on a scale of 1 to 10. At about a 7 to an 8. So that's up there. Perceived exertion is exactly what it sounds like. It's on a scale of the way you perceive intensity level 10, 1 out of 10, a 10, way up here. You're working at a 7 to an 8, so right about here. So it can be treadmill, and if you're doing treadmill, it doesn't mean you have to run. You can put the incline up. If you are doing treadmill, please don't hold on to the handle things unless you feel like you're going to fall, but that reduces the energy output. But anyways, treadmill, elliptical, recumbent bike, upright spin bike, stair climber, the rower. So you pick 5 minutes of steady state cardio will be our finisher. That's a little different. But let's get to our demos here. Okay, the first one is going to be a 90-90 mobility. And we do this one quite often in mobility, maybe every other time. But it's a really great hip mobility movement, so I do like to incorporate it a lot. There's just a couple of ways to do it, which is nice. But we're going to do the standard like movement. So you kind of start like this, recline back on your hands so it's relatively comfortable. But do put your feet very, very wide, and I'll show you why. Because we are going to dip down to one side, and you want it's called 90-90 because you end up with about a 90-degree bend in both knees. It doesn't have to be perfect, so don't look at your knees and make sure it's exactly 90 degrees. Please don't overthink the name of the exercise. So just wherever, if your knees are bent like this, wherever they fall when they go to the side is totally fine. And then we come up slowly and we switch direction. I always recommend a little pause in the tightest position just for a little, so we're not going too fast. So that's about it. Now, if you aren't consciously kind of scooting your butt back like that, you're as you go left to right, your feet and your hips start to crawl forward. So you end up kind of like like this. So at any point, just feel free to reposition yourself, scoot back in. Or when I do it, I kind of, every time I transition from one side to the next, when I'm right about here, I kind of use my heels to give myself a little scoot back. It's subtle, but it just keeps my feet from crawling forward. All right, so that is the seated or the floor version. Anyone staying off the floor, you'll need some kind of a bench or a chair. You want it to be a little low. Like I would recommend a little lower than this, but it's not the end of the world. I mean, because the lower you're sitting, you have a little more bend in the knee, and you'll get a little more movement here. But it's very similar. Actually, if you sit on kind of the corner, that might be better, because then the side doesn't get in your way. It's really the same. You're going to just do the same kind of rotation. You don't have gravity pushing your legs down in the same way the folks on the floor do. So you have to kind of, when you're here, just push, not with your hands, but just mentally push those legs down a little. So I'm switching sides. I'm just going to kind of push them towards the floor. So it does look a little different. You don't get as tight of a mobility movement, but it's a good alternative. So number one is the 90-90. 3 yoga moves kind of all put together. It's challenging. It feels really good. I'll just show you. It's I'll explain it first. It's cat pose it's child's pose into cat pose into upward dog. So if you're familiar with all of those or some of them, this will be a little bit familiar, but the way we do it is a little different. It's kind of nice. So you are starting in child's pose, which, hello. We've had it a lot in cool downs. So I like to put my knees open to create a little bit of space here. You don't have to do that, but I think when my knees are like this, then my ribs and like my stomach kind of run into them, and I'm more comfortable with the knees apart, but you can really do this however you're most comfortable. So we start like this. Just hold it. You're going to hold each of these positions for about like 2 to 3 to 5 seconds, whatever feels good. All right, so child's pose. Then I'm going to come up onto my hands and knees into cat pose. So we know cat from cat cow. So we drop the head and tuck those hips, tuck the pelvis under, and round that upper back. And then you might have to put your hands a little more forward than normal. We sink the hips and the pelvis down and look up into upward dog. So when you're in upward dog, I want you to look at my shoulders right now. You have to semi-consciously keep them depressed and down, because otherwise, if you're not thinking about it, this happens. Watch. They kind of, your neck sinks down and your shoulders stick up to your ears. So we don't want that. We want to always reinforce tall posture, tall spine, long elongated neck. And then from here, we push back and do it all again. Maybe from the side will be a little better. I don't know. Let's see. So child's pose. Up into cat pose. And then into upward dog. And now I'll give you one more tip here. If you want to add appropriate breathing to this, each of the 3 movements has a different part of your breathing. So I'll show you what I mean by that. Technically, we would inhale here as we're resetting. We would exhale with child pose. So exhale. And then we would inhale coming up to cat pose. Inhale here. And as you inhale, it actually helps to lift your spine up more. And then exhale again into our upward dog. And then we do that all again. Inhale as you push back. Inhale. Exhale into child's pose. Inhale into cat pose. And exhale into upward dog. So I know that was a long demo, but I wanted to really reiterate that, or iterate, I should say, the breathing and how it affects, or how it kind of goes with it, and make sure you really understood those movements. So that felt really good. So this one, the minute's going to feel nice. Now, anyone who can't get onto the floor, it's going to be a little different. You're going to incorporate some bird dog and some cat pose. Okay, so we're going to be on an incline. We're going to do cat pose, and then come into one side bird dog, and then back to cat pose, and then the other side bird dog. And again, you can add the breathing. Inhale here, and exhale here. Inhale here. So that one, I think we should just do that for the whole half an hour. No. Anyway, okay, so that is number 2. That was long. I hope you enjoy that stretch. Right, the next one is a banded back pull. It's also called a scapular retraction, I believe, but that sounds so technical. But anyway, so we need a band, a resistance band hooked up to something. Okay, now, those of you who have been with us for a long time, you've done this before. But if you're new, or even if you're not new, it's still very weird. Because when we are like this, our body wants to row. See, my elbows are bending and pulling. That's the standard row. So what we're doing is pulling our shoulders back and our shoulder blades together, but without actually bending those elbows and pulling our hands inward. So it's all of the movement and the work is right back here between those shoulder blades. It is a very small movement. So if you're like, oh, I don't feel like I'm hardly moving, that's normal. That's what this one is. So think about squeezing like a pencil or something between your shoulder blades, and then you don't have to excessively round forward, just return to normal, like return to neutral. Squeeze, pull back. And if you want to add the breathing here too, inhale on the pull. Sorry, I had that backwards. Exhale on the pull. And release for your inhale. Just like you would for a normal row, you would exhale on the pull. So Anyways, but I hope that one makes sense. It is a little tricky because our body just subconsciously really wants to bend those elbows. So fight that urge to bend the elbows, keep the arms straight, and just retract those shoulders. All right, station 4 is a fire hydrant. So this one, it looks a little silly. That's all right. Kind of just what it sounds like, I think. Hands and knees, make sure we have a nice squared position here so the hands aren't too far forward or hips aren't sunken down or anything like that. And then I don't know the best angle. We're lifting and lowering one leg at a time. We'll switch halfway through on this one because it's so easy to switch to the other side. But do you remember with the clamshell last week, I instructed you to make sure you're not rotating, or sorry, not the clamshell last week, but in our warm-up. So hopefully your coaches have been instructing you for this, but we don't rock or tilt the opposite direction to help get the knee higher. Same thing with this. What I mean by that is if I'm keeping my body and my hips very still, this is about as high as my range of motion allows. Now, to make the range of motion bigger, it's like subconsciously, my body wants to kind of do this. See how now I'm turning my body, I'm like lifting up. So try not to do that. It doesn't hurt anything. However, it doesn't help get any more range of motion. It really is just turning your body at that point. It doesn't offer any more movement within the hip itself. So keep your body really strict, really forward, and just move that knee up and down, slow and controlled. No tilting or dipping the elbow or anything like that. If we're doing an incline, there's a couple ways to do it. Or sorry, if we're not getting on the floor. Using a bench is a little tricky because we're doing our normal supported forward bend here, but we're going to bend one knee up, and already here it's tempting to kind of bring our knee forward, but we don't want to do that. So keep your one knee right flush with the other, and then we can still do that same fire hydrant. Okay, so that is, but like I said, that is a little tricky. If that one's just not really working for you, feel free to put your hand on a wall for balance. Lift one leg up to 90 degrees at your knee here. So make sure we're not down here, and open and close. That's a great alternative. It's not 100% the same because we're not really using gravity that same way to like lift the leg, but it's okay. We're still getting that hip movement. So use whichever of those alternative methods works the best for you. Okay, final one is a half kneel behind the head rotation. Okay, so we do a lot in our half kneel, so I know many of you are familiar with that. So we're going to come down into that half kneel. We're going to put the hands, again, anytime we do hands behind the head, don't link your fingers, just keep them open like this, so behind the head. Now, here's the tricky part. We're going to twist slowly side to side. And make sure you do go slow because we don't want to get dizzy by whipping our head around for 60 seconds. I want you to twist as far as you can without sacrificing this front leg. So watch what I mean by that. If I am trying to twist extra far here, this leg might want to dip in like this, but I want to keep the 90 degrees in the hip and in the knee. Same thing other way. When I go this way, it kind of wants to open up like this. But again, I want to fight that and keep it here. Keep your posture up really tall from the side, so I'm not kind of like leaning forward at all. So really tall. And if you think of the elbow that's twisting to the open direction, if you think of like pulling it farther back, that'll help you twist farther. So now when I'm twisting this way, this elbow, I'm feeling like I'm pulling it really far back this way. So it's just slowly side to side. Halfway through, we'll switch our stance so we get even amount of time on each knee. Now, if we aren't getting onto the floor, this is going to turn into a seated version. It won't involve the same hip engagement, or I should say maybe stabilization. But we are going to sit with your feet about hip width apart, really feel planted through those feet. So through the four corners of each feet, I want you to feel very grounded. Very tall posture here. Same thing, twisting side to side, and same thing with the knees. So watch again, we're not going to allow this knee to dip in when I go this way. Not going to allow this knee to, there's going to be no movement here. So that's, if you're seated, that's your goal, is to keep those hips and those legs still. All right, that is our behind the half kneel behind the head rotation. Okay, and I already explained the concept of the team builder / finisher with the steady state cardio, so I'm not going to repeat that. So that is it for this week. I hope you enjoy this mobility week. It's always nice to have this kind of break, and a lot of times we leave feeling really stretched out and really good. So I hope that's the way it is for you. Be back in week 31 with something new.